All right, hey guys, today we're going to talk about how America gets involved in World War II. Isolationism, we're isolated, we're staying out of it, to turning to war. All right, so the questions say, how is cash carry program a part of the neutrality for the U.S.? When, where, and what time did Japan attack the United States? And it also says, how do we respond to the Korematsu case? Okay, Supreme Court. All right, so isolationism. So prior to the events that we're going to talk about today, we were clinging, holding on to, being isolated, staying out of Europe's problems and their wars for two reasons. One, because we needed to solve our own problems from the Depression at home. We've talked about the Great Depression, how massively bad it was in the United States. Massive numbers of people unemployed, so the unemployment rate is skyrocketed, and our own people cannot meet their own needs. So that makes it easy for us to stay out of Europe's affairs. Also, because war is fresh on the minds of these people, and they've lost husbands, they've lost sons. They remember what it was like because it hasn't been that long ago that we fought World War I. So, it's going to be fresh in their minds. They're going to recently remember the war, and some of these soldiers are still going to have the after effects of war. So war is not going to be a viable option. So our Congress passes neutrality acts in 1935. A famous one is cash and carry. So basically we said that we would trade weapons with fighting nations as long as they paid cash and transported the goods themselves. So we're being neutral because we say we're not picking who we're trading with. Whoever wants to buy our products, our weaponry, we will allow them to do that, and as long as they pay cash. Okay, so a couple of pictures with that. Here's an example of cash and carry. Help the Allies now to win, so our men will never be necessary. Cash and carry. So trying to get people to support the cash and carry program so we don't have to enter the war. Okay, so ending isolationism. So it says, when France fell to Germany, the U.S. started to rethink its position. So the Germans have invaded France. We start getting quite nervous, and our aid starts going directly to Britain. So we sort of break our own neutrality act and start really channeling money into Britain. It says the America First Committee was formed by those who did not like us singling out Britain and helping them. They didn't really have a problem with Britain, but they had a problem with us getting closer and closer to an involvement in this war. Charles Lindbergh is going to be among them. Remember the Spirit of St. Louis, the plane he flew. He's going to be a huge supporter of America First and do a lot of propaganda advertisements for America First Committee to keep our guys out of the war. It's so different from when we did World War I, and if you recall, the Sedition Acts, where you weren't even allowed to speak out against the war. So at least that has changed. So here is an example of America First Committee and Save Our Sons. So no convoys, no war, no death for American boys. Join the America First Committee. Okay, so they're trying to keep the guys out of war and to prevent war, or at least keep us out of it. Okay, so that's that. Next sheet says, then November 1940, FDR wins re-election, and he says he will support aid to the Allies, but he promised he would not send any boys into a foreign war. So FDR here reminds us of Wilson. He kept us out of the war, and FDR is going to say, look, we'll support Britain, we will support them. However, we will draw the line, and we will not get involved in this war. So America First Committee can calm down. We're not going to get involved. It says Britain was nearly bankrupt. Churchill asks, who's Prime Minister of Britain, asks FDR, can you send us weapons and supplies without us paying? And we'll just pay you later. So Congress passes the Lend-Lease Act, which sort of undoes cash carry. Cash carry was the neutrality where it didn't matter who we sold to. We didn't care as long as they pay cash. This is going to get more specific and end the neutrality. It says it gave the president the right to aid any nation whose defense is vital to our security. So this would be like Britain, Soviet Union, and many other nations that are not yet involved and probably, we think, will fall in on our side. So we now can lend without payment them these weapons and supplies, and they'll pay us later, which starts with Britain up here. Okay, so example of that is here. This is a cool little drawing from the time period. You see United Kingdom is Britain. See how much we're sending munitions, industrial products, agricultural products in the millions of dollars in 43. Now you might say we're in the middle of a depression or coming out of a depression. What are we doing? This actually does help us come out of the depression as we're building up war supplies and helping out the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom. And you see the others that it helps too. Okay, that's lend, lease. Okay, so it's going to help our economy because eventually we're going to get payment back for that. That's the idea anyway. All right, so Japan attack. So General Tojo Hideki of Japan supports war with the United States. Remember, Japan had been gobbling up different areas like Manchuria, and it says he becomes prime minister in October of 41. So they make a decision, and they decide that they're going to bring America into the war, and they think they're going to bring us down. So 7 a.m. Sunday, December 7th of 41. You need to know that time. Just after 7 a.m. You need to know Sunday, December 7th, 1941. Sunday was significant because, especially in this time period, church attendance was a regular thing for most Americans. The guys that are going to be stationed at Pearl Harbor, which is our naval base there, if you recall, we got when we were talking about imperialism. That naval base, those Navy men are going to be sleeping later than normal. Okay, if it was normally during the work week, they would be up much earlier, but a lot of them are still asleep. So an American radar operator on Oahu in Hawaii, one of the islands, sees a blip on the radar screen. And he waits a little bit, he's not sure. He reports it. At first they thought it was friendly aircraft, like our aircraft coming in. And then he reports it when he sees more and more headed for Pearl Harbor. And this is, of course, our naval base in the Pacific. It says at first he believed it was just our planes, friendly fire. Less than 1 hour later, 180 Japanese warplanes attack us. And in less than 2 hours, 2,400 Americans are dead, 1,200 wounded, 200 planes damaged. It was huge operation that cripples our Navy in a sense there in Hawaii, and 18 warships damaged. I mean, we have a lot of ammunition out there, and a lot of our wartime materials are going to be destroyed. So this is really hard on us, not just the loss of life, which is massive, but also the loss of the weaponry. So FDR is going to speak to this. And this is a very famous recording. I'm sure you've heard the words before. I want to play for you.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation.
Okay, so it says, we were at peace with them. They deliberately attacked us. He's going to advocate for war. Now, remember, the president cannot ever declare war, but he's making the speech to Congress to get them to declare war. Here is Tojo. I didn't show you him. Hideki. Here is a picture, one of the few pictures of the attack on Pearl Harbor as it occurred. Just amazing pictures that came out of that. So FDR speaks, calls December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. I was trying to say there when he was talking, infamy means like infamous. It's going to go down as a really bad time in our history. On December 8th, he speaks to Congress. Congress does declare war. And in return, on December 11th, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. So we begin mobilizing for war now. Now, we've already been in the mobilization movement because of helping with Lend-Lease, our allies like Britain. So, Selective Training and Service Act required all men ages 21 to 36 to register for military service. I recently found my grandfather's letter saying that he needed to go register. So many of these young men are going to go register. U.S. soldiers were called GIs, government issue. Thousands of women volunteer for the Women's Army Corps, known as WAC. Iveta Cope-Hobby heads that up and becomes famous herself for bringing women into the war effort on the side of the military. So that's kind of a cool Time magazine picture of her. Okay. So you need to know, interestingly, 300,000 Mexican Americans serve, 25,000 Native Americans serve. If you recall, there's a movie called The Code Talkers. Navajos created code and also were able to break other codes. 1 million African Americans fight in separate units now still because of the segregation, and they're going to argue double V campaign, victory against racism at home, victory against fascism in Europe and Japan. So Tuskegee Airmen, they're going to be African American airmen that are going to become very famous, very successful in their operations in the war. So there's the Tuskegee Airmen. Okay, Office of War Mobilization and War Production Board, both going to convert industries to making war goods again. We did this before in World War I. And they're going to deal with war production, rationing, having people use rationing booklets so they don't use up so many goods and items like sugar or whatever. Cut down on what you use and control the scarce resources. It says by 1944, U.S. production level doubles all Axis nations combined. So the amount of production we put out there is double all the Axis nations combined. And this ends the massive unemployment of the 30s. So FDR was substantial in getting us out of the Depression, definitely with his New Deal programs. But World War II officially brought us out. Interesting. On the home front, so lots of changes. People have jobs, so they've got extra cash. Rosie the Riveter becomes famous, so we're recruiting women now to work for the war effort. This is a very famous poster that was seen during that time of women working in the factories for the war effort as the men went and fought. Some items are just unavailable because of the rationing, like metal's going to be used for guns, rubber's going to be used for army tank tires, nylon stockings for parachutes. So other items are rationed. Rationing books will be used now. Nothing else will be bought until you get another book. So like, for example, once a month you got a rationing book and there was like little coupons and you would pull it off to buy a pound of sugar. And then once you used all your coupons for that month, you could not use any more until the next month. Sugar, coffee, meat. Victory gardens are going to be planted again. So we're growing food at home instead of taking from the farmers. Farmers' food will be used for the war effort. And korematsu. Not a good thing. So there's this huge Japanese scare in America, much like the Arab American scare after 9/11, where Japanese Americans are held against their will, taken from their homes, and put in camps, work camps, internment camps, during the wartime to keep an eye on them. And they're going to be asked to do things for the war effort. Couple pictures of that. Well, one, an anti-Japanese cartoon of the time. It says, waiting for the signal from home. And they're all lined up looking across the Pacific, and they've got TNT like they're going to blow up America when their home country tells them to. Okay? All right, so if we'll go back to our essential questions. How was cash carry part of neutrality? We said we would sell to anybody as long as they pay cash. So that was neutral. We didn't pick who we'd sell to. When, where, what time did the Japanese attack? So it's right here. Whoops, sorry. So 7 o'clock, just about on Sunday, December 7th, 1941. Sorry, I'm in a hurry.